What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and today we're going to be talking about parlaying with monsters from Tasha's Cauldron and everything. Don't get your hopes up. It's nothing too crazy. I know a lot of people were super excited about this, and again, this I think falls into the realm of if you are comfortable with homebrewing and making decisions on the fly as a DM, then you probably don't need this whole section, but it falls into, again, that category of Watsy put it in a book, so for people who feel uncomfortable doing things outside of a printed source, this fills that gap and kind of tells them it's okay for your players to try and talk and converse with creatures rather than just straight up murdering them or avoiding them. Before we jump into that, I did want to say Happy New Year, depending on when you're getting a chance to watch this. And if you haven't taken a moment to subscribe to the channel and you enjoy what I do here and want to see more non-Tasha's things once this is all over, I would love it if you would do so. I'm hoping to hit 100,000 subscribers by my birthday in July. We blew up past over 50,000 subscribers to the channel here in just 2020 alone. So I'm hoping if we get close to that, actually, less than that amount in 2021, by the time my birthday comes, maybe I can get a play button for my birthday, and that would be pretty sweet. All right, so let's jump over to D&D Beyond and take a look. So it is in the Dungeon Master's Tools sections right after Sidekicks. Don't blink, you might miss it here. But it says, pretty much, again, I feel it's pretty self-explanatory. Meeting a monster doesn't have to spark a fight. Maybe, again, like I said, I think it fits into that people who don't feel comfortable, this gives them credence to do so. So if adventurers try to parlay with a monster, they may improvise, or you can use the social interaction rules from the DMG. I might make a separate video on that just because it exists. And it says consider giving them advantage or, possibly disadvantage depending on how they try to communicate. And it says the monster's desires section below suggests things that a creature might like depending on its type. And that's really all this is it just tells you what you might offer them and suggested skills to use, right? So adventurers can research what a creature is likely to desire. The research table suggests which skills they can use to research it, and the DC for a relevant ability check equals 10 plus the creature's challenge rating. So there is an actual hard mechanic built into this, which is that DC is 10 plus the creature's challenge rating. So you can see here are the suggested skills, right? A lot of them make sense. I feel like this would be... actually, let me rephrase. I was going to say a lot of these make sense. However, this is about as close, and I might make a separate video just on this. This is about as close to knowledge skill rolls you're going to get in 5th edition. A lot of people lament, at least that I've played with and talked to, lament the lack of true knowledge skills in 5th edition. And what I mean by that is, again, I can speak to 3 and 3.5 because I played those, but there was a skill called knowledge the planes, knowledge dungeoneering, knowledge nature, and so on. And that was if you needed to make a roll about something in nature, it would be a knowledge nature check. Now we have nature as a check in 5th edition, so that makes sense. Some of them make sense, like Arcana can kind of fill some of the roles, but you had very specific ones as well, like the planes or dungeoneering for maybe understanding the knowledge of traps and things, and maybe that could be a history check. But more importantly, this would allow you to have a pretty good idea of what kind of skills you would need to use to research and learn about a creature or a monster. This is pretty much as best we're going to get. So if you want to learn about aberrations in the game, you're doing research in a library, you're recalling information from your studies, from past adventures, you want to learn about aberrations, the DM should ask you, suggested skill here is to use Arcana. For a beast, you have 3 options: animal handling, nature, or survival, celestia's, arcana, or religion, and so on down the list. I like that dragon could be arcana, history, or nature, right? Dragons they're a part of nature. They're part of the natural world. Large epic dragons might be a history check. And, they are also in some ways considered to be magical, so arcana might also be part of that. That kind of explains this for you, and I like that. So we do, again, have that hard mechanic. So, if it is a wormling dragon that's a challenge rating 1, and you're trying to learn a little bit about what it might desire, or maybe, this is, again, specifically about what it might desire. I'm going to say take that and expand it further to just be knowledge about it in general. It would be 10 plus that CR1 wormling's challenge rating, so 11, and you need to make either an 11 Arcana, History, or Nature check. And then it would be on the DM to decide if an Arcana, History, or Nature check provides different information, right? Do you get more knowledge about like epic dragons from the history side? This epic red dragon, so we can parse that down for this wormling, or from the natural study of like the biology of a dragon is like this versus Arcana being the magical study. They could do that, and I think that would be really cool. A lot of the times I feel like this concept of researching creatures and things like that pops up like unexpectedly, so you don't have time to prep that, but something to consider. And then again, if you make said check, then they give you 4 options for each creature type, saying, here's something that you could offer them to possibly appease them. Now, right above in the actual parlaying section, it just says, basically, they can try and parlay with a creature. Consider granting them advantage on any ability check they make if they offer it something it wants. So it doesn't give you hard mechanics for like, other than like referencing again the social interaction rules from the DMG. It doesn't really give you hard options on like, oh, okay, if you try to communicate with an owlbear, a creature that is relatively mindless in the grand scheme of things, this is how that would go. No, it basically says, here's how you can learn about owlbears. Here's how you can learn what an owlbear would like. And that if you offer it one of the things it would like, it will give you advantage on your checks to try and talk to it. That doesn't even address the fact that it has a language barrier there, that it just doesn't speak languages. But you get my point. So let's go down the list. So for aberrations, right, these are otherworldly beings, think beholders, mind flayers, and so on. 4 options. Right? The brain or organs of a rare creature, flattery and obsequiousness, secrets or lore it didn't already know, or accepting a strange organic graft onto your body. Now, this could be, the DM could decide this. You could make your check to learn about what that creature might desire, and then the DM might roll, or have you roll a d4 and then say, you would know that this mind flayer would really love for you to accept a strange organic graft onto your body, which could then again be a whole nother series of plot hooks and adventures. So it's a good jumping off point, because if at the very least it might provide a fetch quest for you. Hey, to appease this beholder, we need X, so we got to go get it, and then that sets up the next series of adventures, and that helps the DM plan things out. So beasts, we're talking animals here, really. We've got fresh meat, a soothing melody, brightly colored bead, cloth, feathers, or string, or an old stuffed animal or other soft trinket. Again, we're talking things like a bear, like a wolf, a deer, a dog, a monkey, things like that. So a lot of those, music soothes the savage beast. Fresh meat makes a lot of sense. And then if it's a cat or a dog, maybe a chew toy. And then again, maybe if it's something a little more on the intelligence scale, like a monkey or an ape or something like that, beads or feathers or something like that. Then we have celestials, right? Angelic beings, a tale of a heroic figure, an oath to do 3 charitable deeds before dawn. That could be very interesting. The crown of a defeated tyrant, and a holy relic or treasured family heirloom. Again, I will remind you that all these things are doing are basically you're providing one of these things to said creature just to get advantage on the roll, which is also kind of silly because depending on the situation, you might already be able to give yourself advantage through magic or other means. So could be just a lot of stuff, unless the DM very much hard codes that into the quest, right? This celestial has specifically tasked you with finding some holy relic, and then you have to go get it, that kind of a thing. Constructs, oil to apply to its joints, a magic item with charges to be used as fuel, a vessel infused with elemental power or adamantine or mithril components for it. Dragons, we have gold or gems, makes sense. Anything from a draconic rival's hoard, again, makes sense. An antique passed down at least 3 generations, thus increasing its hoard. And a flattering artistic depiction of the dragon. That could be fun to try and find someone to paint a flattering depiction of the dragon you're trying to appease for one reason or another. Elementals, a gem worth at least 50 GP, which it then eats. An exceedingly pure sample of a favorite element, a way to return the elemental to its home plane, or performing a dance from the elemental's home plane. Fae is the memory of your first kiss, the color of your eyes, an object of deep sentimental value to you, or reciting a sublime poem. Fiends, your soul, straight up. A desecrated holy object, blood from a living creature or recently slain loved one, or breaking a promise in the fiend's, breaking a sacred promise in the fiend's presence. That could also be very interesting. Giants, dwarf admitting giant craft to be superior to dwarf craft. That could be interesting. A strong working animal, multiple barrels of ale, or a treasure stolen from a rival giant. Humanoids is always tricky because it's such a vast, subtype of creature, promising to find a lost item of great importance to their culture, challenging them to a type of friendly contest such as dancing, singing, or drinking, recovering something they've lost, or information on a foe's secrets or weaknesses. Monstrosities, dislodging the stuck scraps of the creature's last meal, the creature's favorite food, driving off the creature's rival, making movements that mimic the creature's mating dance. Again, an owlbear is a monstrosity, so probably just food, realistically, but, maybe this owlbear has a rival that you drive away. I don't know. Oozes, also, who's conversing with oozes? They have like an intelligence of 1. A vial of putrid liquids, a cloth bearing a noxious odor, bones or metal which it promptly absorbs, or a gallon of any effervescent fluid. Plants, again, now we're talking to plants. A pound of mulch, water from a spring infused with Feywild energy, clearing invasive vegetation from the creature's territory, destroying all axes and fire-making implement the party carries. And lastly, again, undead. We're assuming more in the thought-provoked undead, not the undead, mindless zombies. A vial of blood, a personal memento from the creature's past. This could also be things like ghosts and banshees and whatnot. Materials, tools, or the skills to sunproof a crumbling mausoleum, or completing a task the creature was unable to finish in life. So that's it. There's no more context to that. It was like 3 sentences. Hey, you might not have to fight people. You could talk to them. Consider using possibly the social interaction rules from the DMG. If they provide them something they like, consider giving them advantage. I don't even think it says flat out give them advantage. I think it says consider granting them advantage on ability checks they make if they offer something it wants. And then they proceed to give you a whole bunch of rules to determine how you can figure out what they want, but only consider giving advantage. Why wouldn't you just say grant the creature's advantage if they provide something the creature wants? That just seems like a no-brainer to me, rather than consider granting. And then, we basically have our little bit that says here's some skills and a very hard check number to determine if you make the check to determine what they want. And then 4 options, again, 4 creature types. And the problem I have with a lot of that is their creature types, like on the high level, like aberration, right? That is a very vast category that covers a lot of things, right? So I'll remind you that a flump is an aberration. So a flump is an aberration, but so is a beholder, and so is a mind flayer. So, most of those seem to be keyed towards, the more like the mind flayers and the aberrations, right? Like the brain of a living creature, or a brain of organs of a rare creature, secrets that it doesn't already know, or accepting a graft. Maybe the flump would accept flattery and obsequiousness, but it doesn't necessarily seem like a flump-like habit. It might be, depending on this particular flump. But my point being is there's a wide range of things in between, let's say, again, a flump and a beholder. But the same thing could be said for a lot of these other ones as well, right? Like a mephit versus an earth elemental. Big differences in how they, or a genie and just an earth elemental. Big differences in how, what they would want. So again, it probably would be too much to do like subtypes, like genie versus elemental versus mephit, mind flayers versus beholderkin, and so on. So I understand that would just bloat the book, but it's just such a weird chapter to me. I will probably, like I said, the most thing I will likely use from this is possibly maybe pull quest hooks from some of those D4 options of things they might like, and then use the concept of those skills to figure out what, if you're recalling information or doing a research about said creature, use those skills for that, and then make the check 10 plus the creature's challenge rating. And like, that's my most useful takeaway for that. But again, like I said, for a lot of folks, the concept of parlaying with the enemy or monsters or so on was kind of a standard thing that you would just allow your party to do if they made a good enough argument. You didn't necessarily need it written. But what I probably would have said that I needed written was the ability to try and parlay with oozes or certain other creatures on this list. Like, I didn't think they were capable of communication to the level of which you can understand negotiation. Like, hey, gelatinous cube, I'm going to give you this vial of effervescent liquid. Don't eat me and dissolve me as I make my way past. And I mean, there's nothing to say that in any of these situations the other one would just turn on you anyway and do the thing. But like me, until I read this, me, Ted the DM, me, Ted the player, and every single one of the characters I've ever played, with the exception of the one who encountered the sentient one that exists in Out of the Abyss, I would have never even considered the concept of trying to parlay with an ooze. Like even with monstrosities, right? Again, my owlbear example, I don't want to keep belaboring that, but like an owlbear is a mindless creature, like, and it's a vicious mindless creature too, right? Like it's all of the predatory instincts of an owl and a bear mixed together, and it's just even madder because it exists. I would never have been like, well, let's put down some meat for the owlbear and hopefully like it'll let us go. That's just not a thing. Like, and I know the concept of rearing a baby owlbear from birth and then treating it and turning it into an owlbear that like travels with the party isn't unheard of. But there are just certain options on this list that I would just be like, I wouldn't ever consider trying to make a deal with them. Now, obviously, there's certain ones on this list like Fae and Fiends that are all about deals and negotiation and things like that. So that makes sense. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you like this chapter? Did you think it was a waste? It's not a ton of pages in the actual printed book. It's maybe like 3 pages. So, you know, you're not going to get like a ton. You didn't miss out on some crazy content because of this. But yeah, it's just like a weird one. I feel like session 0 was huge. I probably could have dedicated more pages to that. Sidekicks, awesome. So next up on our list after now that we've completed Parlaying with Monsters is the last section of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, environmental hazards. And we have 3 subsets of that: supernatural regions, magical phenomena, and natural hazards. Depending on how long they are, those may be 3 separate videos. But once that's done, we can put Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to bed. We are done with it. Then I'm going to go back and do a couple of like thought, idea, opinion-based videos on it. I will do my Fixing Sorcerer 3.0 based on using the Aberrant Sorcerer as sort of a basis. And I've been working on that in the background. Yeah, so anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, a Happy New Year if it is the New Year by the time you're seeing this. If not, happy soon to be New Year, because that means you watched this video basically right after it came out. And I'll see you all, I'd say in 2021, but if I get another video done in 2020, I don't want to be called a liar. So I'll see you next time.